So, with neck work, I highly recommend when you go to scoop the neck, not to jostle it around as much as possible. You know, I encourage you to consider entering on the side of the neck right near that curve area. And if you push down the table, you can slide right in underneath. So you can engage that base of the neck, and you can feel neck relating to the shoulder. I can check in there. It's one of my preferred ways to start. I've just found if I check in there, see, I'm immediately getting this willingness to go down on that side, and they're sort of rolling up and over on the right side. And that's, I'm just going to enhance what he's already letting me head to and take it up. So just getting this roll to this left side with a little bit of uplift on the right hand, my right hand side, and down sweep. That's where he wants to go. So that gives me also an entrance to slide right up from there to his head, because he naturally rolled that direction. I just slide my right hand up, let my left hand slide right up, and engage at the base of the head, top of the neck. So I have sort of an introduction, hello, neck to shoulders and trunk, hello, neck to head, what you got for me? Something in that nature. And it's interesting, as I get to the head, he wants to come back right about there and just stops. And there's a little bit of a pulsing, sort of a throb along the back, along ligamentum nuchae, or nuchae, depending on the pronunciation. Right along the spinous process line, right there. That's where he's got some pulsing. But he doesn't, he's not immediately moving. But what I am noticing is a little bit of an uplift on the right, and a little scoopage up towards the ceiling, and then scoopage toward me. And I get both going, like, no, let's kind of give a little slack. So I give a little slack down. So his neck is inviting me to his neck more than his neck and head. So this is good. So when I checked in here at the neck base, there was a kind of a movement. When I slid up, checked in head and top of the neck, what happened is he kind of came back more to neutral, and then and there was this little and then it was like, no, we really want you to go there. Like this willingness to go, the slack went that way. So he's definitely more neck related. You can also do simple things. Remember when we did the ribs 1 and 2? Mm-hmm. You can check in that way. Drop into the vertebrae, ribs 1 right here, clavicle. I can even rest on clavicle and rib 1. Hold into that vertebrae edge or the top front of the rib. Check in with that, and sure enough, there's some opposite direction stuff. He wants to go down and over with the ribs versus neck wanted to come up and around. Anything you notice in particular?
Just a little more tension on the right side, clavicular tension.
Now, as I do this, besides feeling rib and clavicle, I've also got the surface of my hand resting on part of the platysma. So I'm just going to lighten up off the bones and engage more in that surface, and sure enough, surface platysma goes, yeah, that way with the right hand, and whoa, this way with the left. So I'm getting this nice surface shearing in that platysma. What's interesting about the platysma is it goes from the mandible, the jaw, right in that front edge of his corners, down and literally over the clavicle, tacks down there, and then out to the pecs. So it literally engages all the way out there. So if you're on that surface, so I don't go all the way into pecs, this would be all the pecs, but if I just sit surface, engage, that's platysma right there. And I can work that surface musculature to make some really nice impact all the way up. See how his neck, his jaw is pulled a little bit to that side.
Mm-hmm.
And as it shears, happens when we back off from that. Now, if I have specifically, so he's willing to go that way, but it drags his chin with me. So what if I were to shift, engage right here, because it attaches right at the mouth and the mandible. So if I engage right at the edge of the mandible, and that surface of the platysma, so I've got my thumb just off the clavicle across that surface, palm is really engaging this skin, superficial fascia right there, platysma. If I go further, I'm into pecs. This, so I give it a little tug, push that direction because it was willing. Now I can feel the reaction up on the mandible of what's going on the other side. So I can focus on the platysma there. And some interesting slide give. As it shears off the mandible, I get a spring back, so I follow right in. So everything's kind of tucking in over on this right side for him. Platysma's taking me down and in, and something over here is what's a little more sticky. So that's the way you can use platysma, besides you can hook into that mandible jaw, into that neck clavicle. Yep. See, I barely loaded that and everything's shearing to the right. Even platysma, the lower surface, is shearing to the willingness to shear to the right, then it stops you right up there. Anything you could tell us? Your back. I was thinking it would be a little different. So this is just simply sitting in the surface muscle, that platysma, between the mandible and the chest clavicle region.
This is the kind of thing you want to be careful about, not just letting go and coming back slowly and stuff.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, I backed off slow. He stayed there. So his head stayed there, but I still got a little engagement because I want to transfer my focus. Because there's something, he's like right in here, keeps drawing the attention. So.
I mean, in general, like when you had the mandible and you were going this way, you want to be careful about coming back and then letting go as opposed to going this way and just letting go.
Absolutely, with everything you do. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I'm going to go into SCM and scalene first with him, just because of so much attention down here. So, as I was just holding on to that, it was a little, okay. So, this is a nice, he's got the SCM and scalenes both shortened up here. That said, it's challenging to get my hand in there. So, something I tend to use is the back of my finger to kind of slide up to feel the edge of the SCM and scoop it a little bit. So I just kind of slid just like that, just a scoop from that lower edge. So I can sort of fold my hand. If I do it that way, I can bring my thumb down. Another possibility is to come in with the thumb, then I have to bring my hand in and scoop it this way. So when it's really shortened up, I tend to go with my fingers first, get position, and then bring my thumb in with that. So I just have a little bit of this part of my finger right here has the back edge of the SCM, and I'll drop my thumb on the front edge. Get my thumb in. Now, first thing I'm doing is just hello between my finger and thumb. There's the SCM, engage in the SCM. I slide my other hand in behind the neck so that I can help if I need to support the head to roll or move in any particular direction. Okay. And you did want to shorten up even further. Now, if I find that I don't have a lot of room, I may let go either with my fingers or my thumb to get my hand to still stay in there. He's giving me just enough. I mean, I'm sitting up against his clavicle with my knuckles, and I have to be thoughtful about that. But I want to make sure I don't drive into him. And what's happened is I've just kind of said, yeah, I'm bumming in there. What do you got? So he's giving me a little slack so I can lower my fist a little bit behind. So he's letting me come a little further up and back on the SCM, closer to the mastoid process. And my thumb is getting a lot of sync ability in that front edge. What's happening on the back, though, is my fingers are sort of pushed out. Okay? So instead of worrying about, oh my God, I gotta get that SCM, no, where are my fingers going to? Where they're going is right behind the SCM. I could sink in right behind that, going sort of straight in, and a little bit to the table. There's the anterior edge of the trap. There's some resistance there. And I can check. He's like, yeah, there's resistance there, but I want you to kind of go up into those muscles between the SCM and upper trap. And I'm getting a sweep down. So I'm going to open this over. So I've got SCM here, anterior trap here. I'm right in between. Okay. Higher edge of this is where I've got splenius capitis, splenius cervicis possibilities. just a little south of that, I'm going to drop onto the levator scapula. Okay? And that's sort of where he's drawing me. If I continue a little south and a little bit more medial, it takes me to scalenes. Okay? So between these muscles, you're right in that gap. High end is spleniae, next one down, levator, next one down and more medial, scalenes. So that's what you're tracking once you go into it. So what happened is I went in, my thumb got to sink, so my fingers came out from behind the SCM. So I didn't have a grip up underneath it, pushed me off the side of it. So I'm right in that groove. So when I'm in that groove, just let my fingers explore. And sure enough, he's willing to let me go down. Because it's going more down towards his feet and a little bit straight down towards the table-ish, that angle, I'm thinking levator. If he gave me down and towards the anterior neck, scalenes. So it just gives you some clue. If he keeps you up, it's spleniae. Okay, so that's just from helping. So I'm going to come back in, roll them over to where I was. Pushes me up, got my thumb in there, drop into the space with my fingers. Sure enough, there's willingness to slide down a little bit. So at this point in time, because I know I'm likely going to this levator, I'm going to take this other hand and slide it underneath the neck to that superior angle of that scapula. Okay. Get to that superior angle. There we go. As soon as I touch that, sure enough, SCM opens up. I can go right in with my fingers right onto the levator scapula right there. So I'm getting levator scapula from its attachment at the scapula on the back with my fingers back there. And I'm dropping onto the anterior surface edge of that levator scapula. And he's willing to let me into that. And a little twisty drop working its way down. Anything you notice with that?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head.
So sometimes you may get into levator scapula. And that's sure enough where he's taking me. So I can follow into that. Now what I'm getting is a shearing down and a little bit of a tug, and I'm holding on to something. I know I need to keep holding on to it because it's reacting further. So my left hand has got that lower edge near that scapula, and the right is tracking now, twisting and shearing and releasing. So I'm getting to come up on that levator. There, that's where it's really stuck right there. Yep, hold on. As I hold there, I can notice I've got 3 fingers right in that region. One, my index finger has a little more give up, so I'm going to scoop up with that. Sure enough, it goes right to the SCM, back edge of the SCM. So my index finger is scooping underneath the back edge of the SCM. My middle and ring finger are still sitting on that levator scapula, so we're getting some separation in space. So I don't need to use heavy force, I just need to shift it a little pressure in direction with one finger versus another. It releasing off the back, my fingers are sliding up along the back into the posterior neck. So now I'm going to re-engage this SCM since he gave me some SCM. Tilt his head just a little bit, gives me a little more grip. Ah, yes. Now I have the back edge of that SCM. And his head didn't even need to roll to give it to me.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so his SCM was stuck to his levator. Sure enough, as I hold that SCM, I can take down, the back hand goes pushing right down again on that levator. Separated even more. He's going, yeah, let me have it, let me have that, yeah. And now he's shearing me out and rolling. So he really wanted to finish up that levator. So I'm going to scoop this SCM now, because I even have more. Look at that much SCM. So he's separated enough to, I have his SCM in a serious way.
You can actually see the gap between the heads, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as I hold on to that, he's going, oh yeah, I should be away from that trachea. So I'm getting this, I'm feeling a tension towards the midline, but his willingness is like, yeah, kind of shear it down and away. So my thumb is really engaged in pushing that SCM down and away from the trachea. At the same time, my fingers in the back have scooped up towards that spine and holding the vertebrae stable. So that this is going to happen right here. And now he's letting me slide up the SCM. Up the SCM. Oh, here we go. Going up the SCM, let my thumb just track right into that anterior crease, right up to the mandible, come to the mandible edge. Sometimes there's restriction right here at the corner. Stay there. Let my fingers spread across that mastoid process in the back. I'm taking it all the way into that attachment at the mastoid process. How you doing with that?
Real good.
So literally just spread right out. Now, when you get into this crease right here, if you find yourself, really hooking in, you've got that SCM. If it draws you towards the center line, it's taking you to the digastric. We're going to go there a little bit later, but just so you know. So he sheared me. Sometimes this mandible gets restricted fascially here. So that's what he just did, is sheared that free. So now I got this nice lift. Now I want to see if I can separate these two bellies. So there's the sternal head right here. I slide over. There's the clavicular head. I can put 2 fingers on that clavicular head, right up next to the sternal head. And what I'm basically going to do is go in there, and I'm going to push down with one and push or hold space with the other. So get right in there, say hello, settle, relax, ease and relax. I drop in, he lets me in, lets me in, lets me in a little twisty to get in there a little bit more. Great. He lets me in a little bit, tilts, shifts, now I spread. I push down with my ring finger, middle finger I should say, and kind of give a little up and in with my pointer. There, that's the tension. So now I have 2 engaged. So I'm holding on to those, and his head wants to do a little bit of a roll and lengthening. So I can feel, I'm going to hold steady in the front. I'm going to engage in the back, right along the upper traps, ESGs right here on the posterior. My fingers are kind of engaged deeper in the ESG. All of a sudden it just opened. So even though I was focusing on SCM, sternoclavicular head, what happened is there was something to the back of the neck connection. Now as that's happened, I can twist and shear this even more. There we go. Hook. Now you got it. So once that released in the back, I can scoop and separate. As I continue to do that, the back of the neck releases further. So I'm just scooped right off the spinous processes on that side. And it's just softening nicely. So this front to back relationship right here is opening. So I'm going to back off. Now, I'm noticing in the back of the neck, right at the top of the shoulder place, I'm going to come with my thumb to catch the other side if I can, right there. So I'm right at that vertebrae level. My fingers scooped in the back on this side, my thumb sort of at the front edge of the upper traps on this other side. Because it's right there, it's restricted feeling, right in that vertebrae region. So ESG-ish, spleenii, upper trap, but it's even more, it's internal. It's like it's taking me a little deeper. It feels like I'm sort of suctioning in around the vertebrae. When you get into that region, you may find yourself dropping on near the spinous processes and feeling the density of that ligament duci, depending on which country you're from is how they pronounce it. So I'm feeling like I'm getting a little bit of that on this right side, and I'm getting more muscle tissue on the left side. It feels more like kind of the back edge of the scalenes on this left side. So what we cleared SCM on this, and I was thinking I was going to go to that scalenes, but no, on this side. He's not on the scalenes on this side. It's going scalenes that side is what's happening. So I'm literally getting this sort of sweep, like my thumb is rolling that way as my fingers catch and shift. So I'm going to go ahead and shift, bring my fingers in with this hand to this side. I catch into where I was near the spine. My thumb is tracking right up behind SCM, clavicular head, and I feel the transverse processes, and I slide a little down towards his rib cage, Right there, my thumb on this side is now getting into that. Now, my thumb is going to be stressed here, so I have to reposition. I don't want to stress my thumb. So I'm going to back off with that hand. Go into scalings on this side, so you might want to shift over. I'm going to position so I can put my fingers in right to that same place where the thumb was. Right up into there, just slide right in. And I want my fingers sort of flat-ish to the surface of the muscle if I can, so I don't dig in, so I can get the pad right there. When I push medially, there's this transverse processes. I slide a little up towards the ceiling and down towards his feet. That puts me right on the upper surface of the scalenes. And I just hold. You'll notice I'm coming from the back, offloading into where it normally is shortened up. So when the forward head, we shorten up that direction. So I'm backloading, kind of coming up into it, because that's where it's letting me in. So I'm giving it a little slack, following. He's responding on this other side. I notice I drop my thumb in on the other scalene on the other side. There's an interesting dialogue now. So my right thumb is in that sort of posterior scalene on the right, but the left is really doing the scalene work. So I sheared off the one, up, now coming more medial. So we've got medial, so I was posterior medial, scalene. I don't push into it, I push onto the surface and engage that fascia surface. And then let that help with the muscles disengaging from each other. And sure enough, she's shearing me off. I get a little separation. There's the throb, pulsing buzz of the nerve plexus. I shear forward on that surface. I'm now hooking in that back edge of the anterior scalene. And it's lifting up and going around. And coming up along that scalene edge. He's not only giving me an uplift, because I could actually go off into the scale SCMs, but now there's a little tilt. So instead of my fingers just going this way, it's going, let's go down that surface. He's giving me surface of the scalene. So I let my pads just sort of glide into that. There, he's restricted right there. He stops me, so wait, there's a little pulse. Not heartbeat pulse, but throbby. I'm using a firm contact, but I'm not forcing my way into the tissue. And these scalenes are soft. There he goes. Now, he's now saying, okay, I guess I can shorten that. I guess I will let you in, because you just worked surface. Now he's letting me deepen into it. So the head rolling. So I let the other hand help that head roll. It stops. He lets me slide in deeper, further into the muscle and down. I follow it. I wait, because he says, wait, that's good, stop. He gives me a little uplift on the SCM. I give a little offload towards the midline. Drops me right down on that anterior scalene again. Rolls me a little bit out, but mostly slides me down. Now I'm getting more lengthening again. He stops me. So just a little bit at a time, just a little bit at a time. The more you do that, these muscles are more likely to A, let go, and B, stay let go. Not to fight it. Anything you can tell us between bouts of in and outness?
Definitely in the in-between. Just feeling some soreness here where your thumb is.
Your fingers?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now I'm getting pulsing on both sides. And he's pulling, everything wants to come out and away from the spine. Like my hands want to head towards the shoulder edges. Both sides. And I'm actually losing contact on this right side. So that's scalenes. That's he's done. Everything started to shear off. So get out. Let it finish. Okay, so we got some scalene on this side, SCM on this side, platysma on both sides, mostly to the right. So I want to check in with a little bit up into the head. So I'm going to come a little higher, scoop in. Yeah, I didn't have it up there, but you can scoop your fingers right along the edge of the occiput and slide along the edge till it starts to turn the corner up. And of course, you're going to run into density of soft tissue there. If you hold, he may let you into this suboccipitals. He's kind of like a little tight on the heel. Kind of give me that way. And we'll tuck and roll. So tucking in on the left and up and right needs to go down and in. So I'll show that, and I'm just going to follow that a little bit. Just to say hello. We'll come back to you later. But basically, I went up and in, and what happened is I was getting this sort of, this went up and this one went down and up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the directionality of it. Okay? Just to say, okay, let's connect up here. So it's easy to just slide over the ears right into the temporalis. If you use the flats of your fingers and try not to pressurize heavy into the sagittal suture. But you can let your hands feel the presence there, because as you work the temporal muscles, you may feel movement in the parietal bones and the parietal's relation to the frontal. So right about here, right about that, there we go. Right there is where the frontal bone ends, and then right in this midline is where the sagittal plane is. So if I put my thumbs right here, I feel the front edge, the back edge of the frontal. I feel both parietals right at the suture. So it gives me some nice information. So I scoop my fingers flat into that temporalis, engage the temporalis, feel the response without, not pushing in, I'm just resting top of the thumbs, just to feel a response. I'm engaging with the fingers, kind of suction in, see what happens. He's willing to kind of do it like up, and a twist. Right hand's doing this sort of a thing. There's some creakiness. Left hand is kind of doing up and this way, or up, 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 up. So the right hand is doing an up towards the ceiling with a twist towards the face. The left hand is doing an up pull towards me with a little bit towards the face. So he's offloading more towards the frontal bone, and that's what I'm getting a sense of. So as these muscles sort of shear and shift, I'm getting that up shift and twist. What do you notice of this? Yeah. Yeah. I could add something. What I'd like you to do is just go ahead and clench your teeth a little bit, and then relax. Contract, relax response. There he goes. And then I'd like you to sort of pull your teeth back so you can look buck teeth like. So get a little overbite for you. There we go. Great. And then relax. So those are both ways you can get a little contract, relax, add into it, if you like. Because I noticed that, like, oh yeah, you can do a little bit of different with that. And that actually allows me to feel more of the parietals. As soon as that second one especially opened the parietal bone tension.
That right side just feels good.
And it's shearing down the right side, and so on the right temporalis is shearing towards the table, and my thumb is drifting right along that sagittal plane, or sagittal suture, and I can feel that that parietal bone is going, hey, temporal bone is doing something. Oh yeah, here we go, coming back up now. Mm-hmm. So I feel the temporal bone through the temporalis in my right hand on the flat, and my thumbs are working the relationship between the bones. So I've got bony relationship at the thumbs and bony relationship at the fingers, but mostly soft tissue at the fingers. So I'm having a dynamic conversation between bones and muscles, how they relate to each other. What do you notice of that? Backing off, backing off, backing off. Okay. So I'm getting willingness to drop down, so I'm going to scoop into the occipitalis. So I'm going to slide up underneath the head. Just get I don't usually go for my whole hand underneath the head, because that means I have to really forward head him quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But if I just get this part of my fingers and palm right at that edge of the occiput, I have enough to engage right at the base of that occipitalis. I'm going to then scoop up here. When you engage here, you basically want to get right in this region. If you push down between these two hands, you're going to compress the bones. So you don't want to push down. You want to just find the ledge of the eyebrows engage with the flats of your fingers, and if anything, finger and thumb kind of invite an uplift of the temporal bone. So this comes together a little bit with an uplift as this engages in the tissue. So get my position, go for a little bit of uplift, and then engage that tissue. And then I feel for the response with the other hand, and then I focus on the soft tissue. There's occipital frontalis. That one. And you may find different parts of the frontalis, and that's what he's getting, is getting a shear to that right. That's a good one. Here he goes, the other direction. And that's affecting everything, not just these muscles. So I focus on those muscles. He's giving me lots of access to occipitalis. So I scoop in a little bit more. So occipital frontalis on towards the right is where he's going. Like, let's resolve that. Here we go, coming back up. So I still got that frontalis. He's negotiating all the way through the neck via this muscle. So he's getting some unwind. You notice he's rolling. That's unwinding the neck as I'm holding on to and working this muscle group right there. And by offloading that frontalis to start with, I don't engage into a squishy bone-to-bone brain smush. This really talks right into that fashion. And everything's shearing over there. Everything. So his neck is going where it's going, not because I'm pushing it, because I'm following in, holding. Everything's opening out over that direction. I always want to stay just a little bit behind that neck flexion and rotation because I don't want to push it. Remember I said I don't like to force those. And he's right there where he stops. I just wait. He's processing. Coming back a little bit. Back a little bit. Big wiggle. Twist. Coming back. Gotta get my hand out of the way. There we go. He's coming the other way. I keep my fingers at the base of the occiput so I get that occipitalis. And he's now shearing across to the other side. Oh, this side's turned. Little twist. Oh, fun. One's going one direction, the other is going the other direction. And bounce back. Oh, now we'll stay over here. And come out that direction. And come back to neutral. Okay. So that was quite a bit for that muscle.